Welcome back to the deep dive. You know that feeling when you hear a story, maybe a legend, and it just feels ancient, like it's been around forever?
Mm-hmm. Like it's woven into the fabric of everything.
Exactly. And you came to us asking about that, about how these big ideas, these traditions, this knowledge manages to survive for so long.
Yeah, why do some things just vanish, while others, they seem almost immortal?
Well, today we're diving right into that. Okay, let's unpack this. We've got some really fascinating source material here.
We do. It's almost like an architectural blueprint for how stories endure.
Mhm.
It lays out the steps.
Right, the stages a story needs to go through, not just to be told, but to really stick,
Mhm.
to become culturally permanent. So our mission is to figure out that mechanism
What takes it from just, a fleeting whisper,
to what the sources actually call an eternal tale.
and that's the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're not just looking at what makes a story great. We're looking at the engineering behind it.
The structure that lets it carry belief, carry knowledge, sometimes for thousands of years.
Precisely. The sources give us this framework. It explores that fundamental power that narratives have. It's way more than just passing on facts.
It shapes beliefs, cements traditions.
Yeah, it's like a step-by-step guide for how stories build and keep their influence.
Okay, so let's start with that blueprint. Step one, it seems like endurance isn't instant.
Hmm.
No, definitely not. Two crucial things are needed right off the bat. Time and effort, really. The sources have this great phrase for the time part, the passing of time.
And it's not just about waiting around. It's presented as more of an active process.
Like a vetting process. The story has to prove it can stay relevant even when the world changes around it.
Exactly. The sources say, imagine the story shared, but it implies only some survive that time filter.
Okay, so that's time. What about the effort part? You said labor.
Right, because endurance is impassive. The sources call this the voice of tradition.
So it emphasizes that stories don't just float along, they need to be actively shared.
Shared, repeated, sometimes reinterpreted, passed down through communities, through networks. It's like cultural maintenance.
So if the passing of time is the stage,
Then the voice of tradition is the crew constantly working on that stage, making sure the story gets told to the next generation.
okay, that makes sense. It's this constant active sharing that gives the story weight.
Oh, wait.
It stops being just, information.
And that's the next stage. Once it's shared widely, consistently, it gains what's called the power of narrative. This is a really critical turning point.
The power of narrative. So what does that actually mean? The sources say the tales have impact?
Yeah, but what kind of impact? If the voice of tradition is the engine pushing it forward,
Then the power of narrative is the momentum it builds up.
that's a good way to put it. It's what makes it different from just a plain fact. Like knowing the height of a mountain is one thing.
But the story of climbing it or a myth about its spirit, that's different.
Exactly. The first is just data. This second, the story, it changes how you might see challenges or nature or ambition. That's the impact.
Okay, I get that. And if that momentum keeps going, what happens next? We start seeing these cultural ripples, right? The sources mention the echoes of legend.
Which means, quite simply, the stories are still all around.
Even if we don't always recognize them.
Yeah, these echoes are the story working away in the background of a culture. Think about basic ideas of fairness or justice that come from ancient myths or religious texts.
Or even foundational legal ideas.
Absolutely. Like principles from old legal codes that still subtly shape how we think about contracts or responsibility today. We might not consciously trace it back.
But the structure of the original story, its echo, is still there in how we think or organize society.
Precisely. It's embedded.
Okay, this is where, for me, it gets really interesting, because these shared stories, the ones with echoes, they don't just hang around as interesting background. They shift, don't they?
They do. They can move from just being narratives to becoming actual structures of conviction, belief systems.
And the sources outline how this happens.
Yeah, it's described as this fascinating psychological step-by-step. It starts subtly, with what's called the whispers of belief.
Whispers of belief. Okay, what's that? It's the first little jump. The implicit suggestion starts floating around. The stories are true. So the audience shifts from, is this a good story, to, is this real? Is it reliable?
Exactly. And often, that feeling of truth doesn't come from proof, but from sheer repetition, from the social weight of everyone sharing it via the voice of tradition.
So the constant sharing makes it feel true. And once that whisper, that hint of truth, takes hold, what happens in our minds?
Well, according to the sources, it culminates in the shaping of faith.
Okay, that sounds significant. It is. It's not just agreeing with an idea anymore. The consequence is fundamental. The beliefs are there. The story has actually reorganized the listener's internal world, influencing their values, what they expect from life, maybe even their fears.
All of that. It shapes their reality map.
Okay, but hang on. This is where I kind of want to push back a little, or at least get clarity. If narratives are so powerful at shaping faith, often without needing objective proof, how can the sources then immediately say that the exact same mechanism, the same story vehicle, is used for passing on practical wisdom, the transmission of knowledge,
Right.
where actual useful information is passed?
Right.
How can we trust that transmission of knowledge if the delivery system itself is so good at, well, shaping belief regardless of facts?
That is a really critical question, and it's something you, the listener, should really think about. What's fascinating is how the sources present the narrative structure itself as essentially neutral.
Neutral, like a tool.
Exactly. The story is the container. It has this dual function. It can carry both the stuff that shapes faith and the stuff that transmits knowledge.
So the structure works for both.
Yes. The difference isn't in how the information is packaged and remembered. The story format works well for both. The difference is in the content and its intention.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
Think of the narrative like an instruction manual. For faith, maybe the manual tells you how the cosmos works, your place in it, moral rules.
Okay, and for knowledge.
For knowledge, the manual tells you how to, say, plant crops effectively, or navigate by the stars, or the steps for a specific craft. The story structure, the narrative, is just the binder that keeps it all organized, memorable.
And make sure it survives because it's easy to repeat and pass on.
Precisely. It guarantees survival through repetition for both belief and practical instruction.
Wow, okay,
Yeah.
that's a really powerful insight. So, knowledge and faith, which we often think of as totally separate things,
Especially today, yeah.
they're fundamentally organized and passed down using the same narrative engine. The output is just different values versus, say, verifiable skills.
Exactly right. The story ensures persistence. The vessel itself, its ability to organize complexity into something memorable and transmittable, that's its utility.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We've talked about how stories gain power and transmit things. What about the end game? Perpetuity, the legacy.
Yes, moving beyond just impact towards, well, immortality. The sources emphasize this permanence with the legacy of words, and they stress this powerful little phrase: the stories remain. They become fixtures, not just something you hear once, but part of the cultural furniture.
But it's not passive, is it, this remaining?
No, not at all. It's maintained by something the sources call the cycle of remembrance, an active, continuous mental effort.
They remember forever. That sounds demanding.
It is. It's the ultimate cultural maintenance plan. It means each generation has to actively pull the story out, retell it, re-engage with it.
Keep it alive, not just stored away.
Exactly. That's why important traditions often involve rituals or ceremonies. Those are the actions that drive the cycle of remembrance. They force the active recall and validation.
And when that cycle keeps turning, when the story is constantly retrieved and validated,
We reach the final destination described in the sources. It's no longer just a legend or a belief system. It becomes an eternal tale, confirming the ultimate outcome. The stories live on. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what this whole architecture describes is a system that's basically engineered for continuation.
not for ending, but for keeping going.
Right. The goal of a story that achieves this kind of cultural success isn't really closure, it's continuation. It's about starting and sustaining that perpetual cycle of remembrance.
Ensuring its impact stays active for generations to come. It really is like a blueprint for cultural survival.
It truly is.
So what does this all mean? Let's try and synthesize this for you, our listener. We've walked through this journey.
From needing the passing of time and the voice of tradition,
To gaining the power of narrative, which can shape belief and transmit knowledge.
and finally locking into a cycle of remembrance that makes it an eternal tale.
So what does this all mean? I guess it means that narratives are this fundamental engine. They organize how we structure conviction, how we pass on instructions.
And they give both impact and this incredible potential for perpetuity.
Which means, well, it means we have some agency here, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If these enduring structures, our knowledge, our legends, our faiths, are built on these narrative foundations.
Then we need to look really closely at the stories being created and shared now.
Think about it. If you're trying to build something lasting, maybe in a company, a community, even your own family, and you want certain values or essential knowledge to stick around,
Yeah.
You almost have to treat them like you're trying to create an eternal tale.
So the provocative thought for you, the listener, is this.
What stories are you sharing today? Intentionally, or maybe unintentionally? Think about your social media, your workplace conversations, the traditions you uphold.
Which of those current narratives might actually have the right structure, the right elements to gain that power of narrative?
And maybe even more importantly, what are you doing to help them enter that cycle of remembrance? What little rituals or habits are ensuring they get retold and revalidated?
What stories circulating right now have the potential to shape tomorrow's wisdom, tomorrow's beliefs, to become the next eternal tales?
That's the challenge, isn't it? The challenge of the enduring word and understanding the architecture behind it.